Okay, so in this video we are going to use this template to draw a realistically proportioned eye. And if you see here, I've done some measurements, and basically this rectangle is 13 millimeters high, and inside where the tear duct is going to start to the outside corner that we're going to use is 37 millimeters. 13 over 37 is 35%. So basically the height of the eye is 30% of the width of the eye white. We're not counting the tear duct, and we're not going all the way out to the corner here. We're just going to this line here. Basically a slight bit over a third. The eye averages between 30 and 40%. There are some, I've measured some eyes where the percentage is a bit higher or slightly lower, but roughly speaking, out of all the eyes the height of the eye that we see is between 30 and 40% of the eye white width. Okay, so we're going to use something close to 35% here. All right, so here's our little template. As I've stated here, the height is 13 millimeters, the width is 37. That's 35%. So this eye height is 35% height to width. And here's our basic steps. We draw the slanted rectangle, cut off the tear duct and the outside corner of the eye, place the iris right in the center. So basically what I've done is I've divided the eye white into 4 parts and placed the iris in the middle, and the iris is covered, the top of the iris is covered by the top lid, and that's normal when people are in a relaxed state. Then we'll place the pupil, and then we can round out the eye if we want to make it you know, a little more realistic. I've seen a lot of eyes where people have just drawn them in a rectangular polygonal way, but I like to round them out generally. So we round out the eye, then add the eyelid crease, the little plane here on the bottom of the lid, and some eyelashes for details. So this is what we're going to use. In this example here, I'm going to keep it pretty rectangular. So when I start, I like to measure halfway here on the outside edge, and I like to measure where a quarter is here. And then we can start our process here. So let's get the basic shape in. We're going to just put it on an angle like that, and then put it on an angle like that. Now we're not going to use this part here. When I'm doing a placeholder eye, when I'm drawing faces, I'll just draw in this whole rectangle shape. Okay, let's continue on. Let's shape the tear duct. So it's here, and it's going to come in like that. So let me erase some of this so it's a little more clear. So it's going to be here and back like that. And now this top edge here, if we cut this in half and into quarters, okay, this top edge will go up here, and this edge here will go down to here like that, from this 3/4 in to the outside edge. Okay, so from here we can just draw a couple of lines down here, and then we can place the iris. The width and the height will be equal, so we know the top of the iris will be somewhere up here. We could just draw in a diamond shape like this, or a tilted square, I guess is what it is, and then we can round it out. Then we can again find halfway from the top to the bottom, that's about here, and we can place the pupil. Now I always like to put a little highlight shine in here like that. We can put the pupil in like that. Okay, so we're getting the shape of our eye done, and then I'll just add in the little ledge here. Well, we'll do that in just a minute here. We're going a little ahead of ourselves here. We've got the pupil, we've got the tear duct, we've got the outside edge. Okay, yeah, so let's start to round it out now. We can just curve it in like that. We can tip the page, curve the eyelid down like that. The bottom lid, we're gonna ride pretty much right along this line up to here like that, and then the bottom ledge is going to be a little thicker on the outside and a little thinner here at the bottom. I like to cut my erasers into sharp edges so I can erase more accurately. Okay, let's redo this here. So I'm going to do the top lid like this, and this is the top edge of this bottom lid, and this is the bottom edge of the bottom lid like that. Okay, so things are looking good. We've gone from a rectangle all the way to a rounded shape pretty quick. Now we'll get into some details here. We'll get that iris shaped a little better, a little more defined. We can fill in the area of the pupil to get that established. Now we could even add in the eyelid crease, so it's going to come in quite far. Go up, and some of them are very rounded. I'm going to flatten mine out a little bit here like this, and then come down to the bottom edge here. So a little thicker on the inside, flat across into the outside edge here. Again, I'll take a sharp edged eraser and erase that. We're pretty much ready to add the eyelashes, so before I start doing that, I'm going to clean up the drawing. Okay, there we go, like that. There's a little highlight in the corner here where it's a little moist. Now we're going to thicken the outer edge of the iris. Take a look at some eyes and you'll notice that the outer edge of the iris is a little darker than the inside. That we can add some of those spokes that we see in a lot of eyes. Make sure you aim them towards the center of the eye. I'm going to darken the iris a bit. I don't like the shape of my highlight there, so I'm going to get my trusty eraser here and carve it out a little bit. Something like that. And I can even take my electric eraser and clean the highlight up and reshape it one more time. Something like that. Okay, now the top lid of the eye is going to create a bit of a shadow across the eye here, like so. And we can add a tiny bit of shading here to create some curvature of the eyeball. Alright, and we're pretty much done. So that's one example. Now, if we want to go a lot more cartoony, we can. So let's do this again. We're going to start with our slanted rectangle. This is halfway. This is a little less than halfway, like that. Flatten it out like that. Find halfway, cut it into quarters. Drop some lines for the iris, like that. And create the iris like that. We could even do a square first, cut out the highlight, then round it out. Do the crease of the eye, like that. Darken the edge of the iris. Create a shadow at the top of the eye. If we want, create the ledge on the bottom lid of the eye. And oh, I realized I didn't do any lashes on the previous one, but we'll continue on with this one first. Because we're doing it in a pretty comic book style, pretty angular, we can just add in some straight kind of lashes. And there we go. Not bad looking eye, pretty quick. And it does have a kind of a cool comic book style to it. So I like that. Let's go back up and add in some lashes here to this one, which has a little more organic, curvy style to it. And I like to cross my eyelashes a lot because I see that in real life, or bunch them. There we go. Okay, so there we have two different examples, a little more organic, a little more angular for a comic book, cartoon, or even a manga style. I'm going to do the other side now. So I always find this a little more awkward just because my hand seems to work better pulling than this way, but that's just me. And about quarter here. So then we'll cut the top into quarters and we're ready to rock and roll. So down to the tear duct here, up to the top lid. Create the ledge here on the top lid, and this comes down right to the little curve it more here, rides right along this line pretty much and goes up into the tear duct, and then we can create the bottom ledge of the bottom lid, and it gets thinner as it goes in towards the tear duct. The iris is going to be around here, top of it's going to be about here. Halfway is going to be about here. Yeah. Okay. Put in our highlight of the iris. Sorry, of the pupil. Okay, so that's not too bad. Let's add in a bit of a shadow on under the top lid of the eye. Something like that. Make this a little darker over here. And same as before, we're going to make the outside edge of the iris a little thicker and darker. Add in some spokes. There's probably a name for those spokes in the iris. I don't know what they're called, but if somebody does, let me know. And I'm gonna take my little sharp eraser here and clean up a little bit here. So I just cut my erasers with a knife. You can do it with scissors or whatever you have handy. And let's add the crease. Up, flat across, and down. Maybe a little thicker here. Okay, now let's add some lashes. All right, so something like that. So there we go. Now, you might be thinking, well, can you do this without having a template? Well, of course. But I find that once you've done this a few times in the template, I also have another smaller one, and I'm gonna make these available in the description below. Once you practice using the template, then that just formulates a little pattern in your mind, you know, so then you can start doing it freehand. So let's see how I do here. Let's see if we can do this. So I think one thing I used to do wrong all the time was I would make my eyes too thick in a manga style, but we're trying to do realistic proportions. So you want to keep your eye quite thin relative to the width. And when I say thin, I mean height. If this is the center of the face and we're going to say the nose is about that wide, then that's how wide our eyes are going to be. And I can do a quick measurement here. A lot of times I'll freestyle it, but for this video I'll measure. Actually, let me just try freestyling it over here and see how I do. Okay, that's my guess, and I'm going to say there to there. Pretty close, pretty darn close. So that's good. That's what you want. You want to develop that ability to just freehand it. I think my eyes are a bit high, so I'm going to maybe shave them down a little bit. Okay, we're going to cut them in half on the top and then into quarters. Outside edge halfway in height, inside edge find halfway and then find a quarter, halfway then a quarter. And remember, the tear ducts will be inside this nose area here. So tear duct up to about a quarter or just inside. The outside edge, let's do it over here too. Tear duct like that, and then back up. So it goes in and back up, in and back up, right to the edge here, and then it comes down. Okay, let's do this outside edge over here. All right, and then here, start curving it in like that. And this is where I have a little trouble curving if I don't tilt the page, which I'm not gonna right now because I'm just not. There we go. Now we can start to curve the top. Let's clean this up a little bit here. The bottom lid, if I'm gonna add in the ledge of the lid, here's what I want you to realize. That I take the top of the ledge and ride it along the line, and then I add the bottom part of this little ledge underneath, and I go right out to the edge like that. This one here, the top part of the ledge rides along the line like that, and then, but actually it doesn't go to the outside edge, it goes here like this, and then we create another ledge up to the top like. Okay, and then the very outside edge is the bottom part of the ledge here, and then it goes in like that. Okay, so there we go. Now this one's wider than that one, so let's clean that up a little bit. Okay, let me turn the page and get a little more accurate here. There we go, and keep that nice and thin. There we go, that's better. Okay, so now iris time. Do the highlight. You can do highlights any way you want. I'm just doing the same one just for ease of this video. I like to have a system that I use all the time, and then if I want to create variations from it, that's what I do. But I always have a go-to method. Like that. Thicken up the outer edge. Add a shadow on the top of the eye from the top eyelid. Add a little bit of shading to create some curvature of the eyeball. Really light, nice and light. Do the lid crease, the crease of the eyelid above the eye. A little thicker, I find, a lot of times on the inside, like that. And then, you know, from here, so we're pretty much done. And what you can do if you want is you can erase all your guidelines and then go over it again, or you can start to place the other features. Now the eyebrows come down very close to the top of the crease of the eyelid, and they tend to go out. They can follow the curve of the eye. What I'll do a lot of times is I just draw a straight line up to this 1, 2, 3/4 part of the eye, and then I'll drop it down like that. So I get that kind of plucked eyebrow look that women do all the time. Okay, and then up and then down like that. And then we'll talk about eyebrows in another video. Okay, so we're getting the features placed here now. This eye is a little low on the outside, looks droopy, so I'm going to clean that up, make it here at halfway. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I think that's better. Okay, and let's see. So from the outside edge of the eyebrow to the middle between the eyes is about the height of a nose if we start at the bottom of the eyebrow. So if I go from here to here, then we get pretty much the bottom of the nose. A little trick I'll do to place the, to shape the bottom of the nose is I'll draw a triangle, and then I'll draw a reverse triangle. And right where they meet here, I can start shading in for the nostrils. And there we go. And I can come up like this for the outside of the nostrils. So it's just a little guide that seems to work for me. And then the ball of the nose, bridge of the nose, and there we go. We go from eyes and get the nose placed in pretty well. Okay, and let me use a putty eraser here, and we'll get it nice and soft and see what happens. All right. Try and get rid of some of these guidelines. Now, if I am doing a finished drawing, I'll get rid of those guidelines a lot earlier, so I don't have to deal with them so much like I am now. I'll get rid of them along the way, but not so worried about it right now. And then I can just, and from here I can redraw the whole thing and get it a lot more refined. And if I want, I can add a little shading here to show the crease of the eye. Eyebrows are a whole other thing, but quickly I'll just put in a couple of layers here. There we go. So you can see that everything works out pretty well using this method.